but that's what I'm here for. So this is Mr. Richard Pilcher II. He is from St. Louis, Missouri. Don't let that scare y'all. I know people from Missouri, they can be a little hard on the exterior, but he's a softie, don't worry. He's been married to my sister friend, Nikki Pilcher, for 12 years. They have two absolutely stunningly beautiful daughters. And that he has, so this is why we're family. He has a double E degree, electrical engineering degree from Alabama A&M University. So if y'all don't know, I'm electrical engineering too. And it's not too many of us in the world, so we kind of got to stick together. But he's also worked as a software engineer for 16 years. So I call him a tech genius. He's a part of the tech team at our church. And him and Nikki also serve as MU volunteers. They are alternate leads for our own community group. And they also just help in other ways. I know with community service at our church, Nikki's part of big time. So we just think, oh, you know what y'all should know also? He was part of a church plant in Alabama for like 4 years, like served as one of the pastors there. And so y'all don't roll your eyes at me, Rick. I'm sorry. He was a servant leader at this church. Okay, there you go. And so now they serve at Mosaic. They've been at Mosaic for about 3 years. So we thank them for serving here. And I'm excited to get into these conversations with Rick. Thank you so much for coming along and agreeing to have this conversation with us. And with that, I'll let you and Pastor Brett get started. I don't know if Pastor Brett's already mentioned this, but if you can, change your view to speaker view. And then that way you'll see who's talking at the right time. It'll just be Pastor Rick. I'm sorry.
Pastor Rick. Bishop
Rick. You know what? Sometimes Bishop. I call him just to make him mad. I call him Pastor Rick and just messes with him. So, all right, I'll let y'all jump in. Thank you for coming today.
I'm just going to refer to you as Bishop from now on. Right,
oh, Lord. See, Ross, see what you've done. See what you have started.
Yeah, oh, I said I wasn't going to do it. My bad. I like it.
Yeah, well, Rick, we're so glad you're joining us, man. For everyone else, if you would, make sure your mic is muted. And as Rosalind said, have speaker view selected. That way, Zoom will act almost like its own production company and showing you the video of whoever it is that's talking as Rick and I get into this interview. Also want to just remind you, as we're following along the PDF, obviously week 1 here, our first topic is injustice and lament. And so we're going to be taking a look at not only what injustice can look like in our day and age and in our culture and what we're dealing with in our nation, but honestly, how we ought to feel about that as followers of Christ. When we see the brokenness of our world fleshed out in all these various ways, something in us ought to be broken as well. Something ought to move us to a place of sorrow, to a place of lament, to a place of recognizing this is not how God intended the world to be. And as someone who loves my Father, I love what he loves, and to see what he loves broken also breaks me up inside as well. And so we want to move forward from not only recognizing what injustice can look like, but how we ought to respond to that as followers of Christ. And so we're going to get some firsthand views, some interview kind of story-like descriptions from our man Rick here in regards to what he's experienced growing up in America as a Black male, how that's affected his life. And hopefully, as we go through this, as Rosalind said, this is taking place of the share and listen portion of the PDF. And the reason we're kind of substituting these interviews over the next 6 weeks in that portion is, one, we want to make it personal for you. We want you to experience someone's personal experience and what they've lived through in our nation. We're going to have various number of people as we do these interviews from different ethnicities, different backgrounds. But we also want to model for you all as you get into leading your discussion groups over the course of the next week. We kind of want to model how to engage and interact in those kind of conversations, how to be a listening ear, how to actively listen, how to respond with affirmation and confirmation. And so at the same time, not only getting to know the material, but also modeling kind of the behaviors that we're hoping we can all pick up on and how we love and serve one another more effectively. So we're going to jump right into it. So Bishop Rick Pilcher, if you wouldn't mind starting us off, give us a little background. Where'd you grow up? What was your neighborhood like? How many siblings you had? What was your family like? Just kind of help us get a better understanding of kind of who you are and where you're coming from.
Sure. So grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Um, just me and my mom. So as far as my neighborhood, um, that was a lot of neighborhoods, primarily because we moved around a lot. My father wasn't there, and which is a good segue to the number of siblings I have. I'm my mother's only child, but I have 5 sisters and 3 other brothers. So, Papa was a Rolling Stone, so he was around. But man, my mother worked hard to keep us out of the worst of the worst, but it was still pretty bad. Where I, was growing up, I can remember being on my tricycle, seeing syringes and needles and stuff on the ground. That was just an everyday thing. So, um, but as I grew up, that kind of faded away a little bit. But that was pretty much, my environment. Drugs, violence, stuff like that. But I had a mother who was determined to not let me, die to the streets. So
Yeah, for sure. But hey, the power of a single mom.
hey, I
Ain't much
tell
on
you,
earth that can compare, right?
hey man,
How
I
how,
tell you
how
what.
so was your dad ever at home, or he was just never there? How old are you when he kind of walked out of the picture?
Um, for me, I think he was there when I was really young.
Hmm.
But I have no memories of him actually being there.
Yeah,
Um, I have maybe a handful of memories of actually those, son dad moments. I can count them on my hand.
yeah,
Uh, but no, he wasn't really there, really. So,
yeah. And my dad walked out on us when I was 3, and I
mhm,
don't have any. I have maybe 1 or 2 memories of him being in the home. Neither one of
yeah,
them are great memories.
right.
But so did all your siblings live in the house with you and your mom? Were y'all all together?
No, no, that's what I said.
No.
I'm the only child, so
Okay, but
we
you the only
all
one that lived
scattered.
with your mom.
Yep, I was the only one that lived with my mom. We were all scattered around. We knew each other. We saw each other. And sometimes we would get together for like I think we took one picture with all of his children together.
Wow.
But no, we were all scattered around, man.
Wow. And what about
Yeah.
your religious background? Did your mom have you in church every Sunday
Brother. So
and
yeah, I was
Wednesday
there.
and Tuesday?
I was there. We were there. We were in church, but we didn't know Jesus.
Yeah.
It was more so checking the box, and that's the place she was at the time as well. It was more so seeing church as a means to an end. Let me go here, give my money to try to fix this situation
Mm,
versus, trying to be fixed,
mhm,
spiritually
mm,
and from a
mm,
brokenness. We're trying to just fix our circumstance, and not from within with the core of the
mm.
problem. So
Wow.
that's what church was for me initially, man. It was just going. And when I was old enough to decide not to go, or when she let me decide not to go, we stopped going.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's again real similar to my story. My mom had my brother and I in church every Sunday, but I can remember she would drop me off at my Sunday school classroom, and I would stay there just long enough until she walked back down the hallway. Then I'd sneak back out to the car and lay down in the back seat to take a nap.
Yep. I just took a nap in the pew, man. You were better than me.
A little more
Pew-
sneaky, more
Pews are
sneaky.
comfy.
So within the neighborhood that you grew up in, Rick, was it predominantly black? Was it a pretty diverse neighborhood? Give us an idea of what that
Yeah.
neighborhood looked like.
No, my neighborhood was predominantly black. Um, the only time I ran into other ethnicities was in 7-Elevens or some other business establishment,
Okay.
right? Of course, those, you know, my neighbors were all black,
Okay.
all black.
So
Yeah.
not a real diverse community, even within kind of the a little bit further out from where you actually lived. It was still a very kind of segregated experience.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that was yeah. I grew up just outside Atlanta, but where I grew up was mostly segregated as well, predominantly white in the area that I was growing up in. So with that in mind, when was the first time? What's the first time you can remember experiencing or observing the reality of prejudice or racism or bigotry? Like, what's the first time you can remember that becoming something you were aware of?
Yes, actually, I remember it vividly because it was so extreme. So I was like 7, 8 years old. I think I was in third or fourth grade, and a teacher slammed me into the chalkboard and called me a racial slur. You know, because I kept answering all the answers. I mean, answering all the questions, um, and he didn't like that. Um, and that was rough. You know, my mother was upset, extremely upset, because she pushed me to excel in my education. So the fact that at that moment, um, to be slamming, I'm 7 years old, and that's the first time I encountered that word, and to be
I'm
slammed into
assuming
the
he used the N word. Is that what you're referring to?
yeah, I didn't know, I don't know this is PG-13 R, you know what I mean? So I was trying to keep it, but yeah, yeah, along with some other things. But
And
yeah, because
what was the ethnicity of the teacher?
he was a older white male.
Okay.
Yeah, older white male.
Okay.
And he called me. I kept answering, the teacher, hey, what's this? Have you question? I was like, okay, oh,
Sure.
I know.
Sure.
Then he called me up to you know, to the front of the class and asked me questions, and I knew those. And he slammed me in the chalkboard. You know,
Good gracious.
yeah, man.
So you're
So
just a 7-year-old kid thinking you're doing what you're supposed to be doing by learning and answering questions and
right,
getting an education.
right.
What was the classroom? Your classmates? Was it a diverse classroom? I mean, it
Yes,
sounds like it must have been diverse.
it was very yeah. The classroom was diverse. That particular school, uh, was very diverse as far as between white, black. We had in St. Louis you don't see many Hispanic, some Asian. You know what I mean? But yeah, it
Hmm.
was very diverse in regards to black and white students.
And so I'm assuming, because it sounds like you were probably the smartest, if one of the smartest, and the smartest kid in the class, and confident in your ability to answer the questions, confident in the knowledge that you had, right?
Yeah, I would say the most confident. I don't know about smartest, but I would say at least the most confident to to answer the questions. Because I was urged to do so. Um, for my mom to to don't be afraid of what you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so as you're walking up to the front of the room, are you feeling like you're in trouble at that moment? Or are you thinking he's gonna
No,
like
I'm thinking I'm about to
congratulate
get
you
one
for
of the
being so smart?
man. I'm thinking I'm getting one of the the candy bars you get in the desk, or something. Man, I was not expecting that at all. It was it
So
was
walk us through the moment, just because I really want to understand,
yeah,
because that's I mean, just hearing you say just in very brief details, that sounds horrific. So
yeah.
did he grabs you by the shoulders, he grabs you by the shirt, and it slams you up against the butt. Walk us through some of the details of that.
So I go to the front, and I can't remember what the question was, but now I look back and it was more like a setup. But I answered it correctly. I didn't know maybe he felt like he was being challenged or something.
Sure.
From my perspective, I'm just, raising my hand and answering, from the homework assignment or whatever. And I answer, and I remember like, that's it. And he grabs me by my collar, like here. He grabs here, and we're up in the front, and it pushes me into the chalkboard, and says, the things he says, and I'm just, I'm stunned and shocked. One, from the aspect of being, handled by someone who shouldn't be putting their hands on me, and from the perspective of this isn't, this wasn't like you know, a violent type of scenario,
Right.
um, and the fact that he's white. It was embarrassing. um you know I was completely embarrassed, one, because it just in my just from my how I grew up in my neighborhood. Even as a young kid, you don't tolerate, you know you're taught not to tolerate someone putting their hands on you and you not reacting. So
Mhm.
I was at a struggle because, one, he's a man of authority, and I also was raised to respect authority. Like, he's the teacher, respect him or her. And so I'm torn. I don't know what to do. I'm looking around, and people are shocked and laughing and pointing. So what do I do? And so I didn't. I didn't retaliate back. I just took it. Um, but you know, that was
Golly.
that was my introduction to what's
Golly.
still here today.
Well, listen, man, as my friend, as my brother, I'm sorry you had to experience that as a 7-year-old kid, bro. That's horrific. That's
Yeah.
horrific. What? I mean, I could probably list off some of the feelings that you were feeling in that moment, but I would rather hear it from you. What are some words you used to describe how you were feeling right there in that moment?
Um, initially, man, I was tormented for me because on one aspect, I'm praised and encouraged to, strive for excellence. And in that moment, you know, it was trying to be tore down. Uh, and so I kind of doubted one participating or even moving forward, you know, and just trying to hide in the, backgrounds and in the, and not speak out anymore. Um, then I was angry, one for being, treated like that um, you know, that just wasn't cool, man. I'm defenseless,
Yeah,
One, I'm 7 years old, I can't do anything with a grown man. Um, so there was anger there. There was in the moment I was afraid. I started to develop a fear um, towards older white men.
sure.
Um, um, and you know that was the crux of the feelings, man. It's like just I felt tormented, afraid, doubtful of who I was, um, and who I was trying to become, um, and just overall sad, man. That was rough.
Yeah. I'd imagine probably also a bit of kind of a shaming, a condemning, kind of like, hey, you better know your place kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Fortunately, though, with that part, my mom kind of like um, tried to deter that like
Yeah.
real quick.
Hey, tell you, the
That,
single moms, baby,
yeah,
come
yeah.
through. So you say your mom kind of stepped in. She was angry about it. Was there anybody else that kind of came to your aid or kind of rallied around you or came alongside of you as you were processing through that?
No, I was alone. Just me and my mom. And primarily, we didn't get other family members involved, you know, for other reasons that I won't go into. But no, it was really just us, man, and it was good to have her there. One, to let me know that that wasn't normal and that wasn't okay, and that not to let that stop my drive and my focus, and not stop that from letting me be and express who I truly am, and not to be afraid of the things that I know. So it stunned me for a while, but every day she just kept reiterating to me, who I am and who I'm striving to be. Um, and later, I'll say this. Even later in high school, something not as extreme came up, which drove me to become an engineer. While I was in class, my teacher, another white male, um, the teacher is asking, "Hey, what do you guys want to do at the high school?" I think I'm like a freshman now, and I'm like, "I think I want to be an engineer." And he laughed, like laughed really loud, and he's like, "You'll never be an engineer." So that was like, it's sad, but I use anger to fuel my drive initially to become an engineer, to later become an engineer, and then meet Christ and realize, even though I was using, anger to fuel my drive, um, that even through all of that, the Lord still saw me through and um, allowed that to be used for me to become who He wants me to be, and use,
Yeah.
the intellect and the gifts that He
Yeah.
bestowed
What,
upon me.
what, what did your mom think about you wanting to be an engineer?
Well, she said, "I knew you were going to say that, like, 'cause you were always, one, she's like, I don't understand your math and science classes. You're always taking apart all of your toys, that I scraped money together to buy my, hijacker remote control car. And you got to take it apart, man, to see,
Got to see how it works. Hey, I
you
feel
got to
you.
know what's in there,
I
man.
feel you.
Maybe you can make some modifications and, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, so she was like, yeah, I knew you would say that. But so she wasn't surprised.
Yeah, my brother used to lock me out of the house after school. I'd take apart the lawnmower and anything I could in the garage just to figure out how it worked.
Yeah.
It's funny, again, some similarities in our stories. I can remember when I was in eighth grade and our eighth grade teacher or social studies teacher asked us, go around the class, tell us what you want to do when you grow up. And, it was doctor, astronaut, all those things. And it came to me and I said, I want to play in the NFL. And my eighth grade teacher laughed and said, that'll never happen. You need to find a better dream.
Wow.
And of course, then after I signed with Indianapolis Colts, she asked me to come speak to her class.
Oh man.
I didn't care to bring that up and remind her of that moment, but it was still down in me, man. It's amazing how those moments in our childhood where other people who are in a position of authority that ought to be calling us into greatness, instead try to oppress you, try to put you down, try to tell you what you can or cannot be, what you can or cannot say. It's amazing how those things mark us, and even that early on in life, isn't it?
Yeah, man. It's truly amazing. Like I kept looking back, like while I'm in class, I'm like, I'm gonna do this because you don't know like what I go through, and like what I go through to be who I am in this class. Like while I'm studying for homework, I hear women being beaten in the next room or gunshots here. You know what I mean? Like I have to deal with all of that while trying to master this particular subject. And to so I'm feeding off of that while you're laughing at me and saying that I can't become this for whatever reason. Okay, I'm gonna show you otherwise. So, but Jesus is great, man. To take, that anger I had and to transform it now into love, even when you're doubted. To know that no matter what someone says to you or at you, doesn't define who you are. He defines who I am.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And the fact, again, I keep going back to your mom because my mom is probably, in my opinion, the greatest woman on the face of the planet.
That's a fact.
And all the sacrifices that she made, what she was willing to endure and go through, working long hours, getting by at $18,000 a year with 2 kids and coupons and food stamps and all that.
Yeah, buddy, don't talk about them food stamps,
right?
Talk about them food stamps.
But so how like you're going through this moment of there's anger, there's frustration, there's resentment, but yet there's still this courage and this bravery and this conviction that says, man, I'm going to prove these people wrong. Like that you're recognizing this, what they're doing to me is wrong. What I'm going through is wrong. My environment is wrong. And yet I've got this one person, my mom, standing in my corner, telling me who I was meant to be, telling me what I was meant for.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you to have someone in your corner walking through those things with you, continually cheering you on?
It meant the world, man. It was my hope, because that's really, in those situations, man, you need that. It was the glimmer of light I needed, and it's amazing how, not to say just her, but even in that situation, of course, you would want a father there or more of a community, a village there. Like the Lord used even that, man, as that's that little glimmer of light to keep your head high.
Yeah.
Because the reality is a lot of people didn't make it out of that situation. I have friends who are dead. I have friends who are incarcerated. And it was just her, that light, man, every day, even carrying everything that she was carrying. That's a whole nother, grow class.
Yeah.
So man, I love my mother, look up to my mother, and you know, I cherish those moments and those conversations, some of those hard conversations that we had. But it was what I needed, the foundation that I needed to stand on.
Yeah. I totally agree, man. You're about to bring me to tears just thinking about just our mamas.
Our
Um,
mamas, man. Yep.
so when you think back to those experiences growing up, where do you see or where do you find yourself caught up in moments in present day where you see or feel those similar kind of emotions or experiences popping up in your life as a Black man in America?
Ooh, yeah, they come back a lot. I just gave you like the highlights of
Yeah.
my experience. Um, but that was continual, you know, and especially people don't realize in St. Louis, man, St. Louis is a very racist city, very racist city. You think it only happens in the South, the Alabamas and Texas and Mississippi's, man, very racist city. And to see what's going on today, man, it just one brings back those feelings of that this is still going on at the intensity that it is, and even at a higher intensity. One, because you get to see it on camera. I can go to Facebook and see it. I can go to Instagram and see it. Google Chrome has it. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, one, I look at my daughters, and it pushes me and Nikki to, and sadly, have these conversations with them. And sadly enough, they've already experienced some racism as well. So the cycle is being repeated. But
Yeah.
but that's all right.
Yeah.
They have us here to encourage them through it, just like I did.
Yeah. Well, and I honestly, I probably need to pick your brain and Nikki's brain as well. And I know I've had this conversation with Rosalind also, being a father of a young Black girl, our youngest
Mhm.
daughter being adopted from Ethiopia,
Yeah.
needing to learn how to have those conversations, needing to learn how to speak into that experience is something that I know Melissa and I need to grow in and better
Mhm.
understand as well. And with that in mind, like when you look at what's happening in the world today and you think back to what you experienced as a kid and the importance of having your mom in your corner, of having somebody who was there to continually point you towards what was true, what was right, what was good.
Mhm.
What would you say as we process through what's going on in our nation today with the racial division, racial injustice things? Um, what would you say is the importance of being able to walk alongside one another, regardless of our ethnicities, but to be able to kind of understand that pain, understand that brokenness that we experience within our lives? Could you just speak to that idea of the importance of being able to walk alongside one another in that? Because what we're seeing right now, and a little bit in our own church, but definitely in the capital C church in America, is a
Yeah.
lot of divisiveness and division or long racial lines,
Yeah.
of one side of the argument being, hey, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want you to know what our experience is. And then a lot on
Mhm.
the other side saying, well, I'm not a racist, I've never done that. And so it's almost like there is sympathy in regards to, well, man, I hate that that's what you go through, and I hate that that's what you experience.
Yeah.
Sucks for you kind of deal. But there's a difference between sympathy and compassion. Like
Right.
compassion is saying not just that I hate that you have to go through that, but compassion is saying, but I want to go through it with you. I want to be in
Right.
your corner. I want to walk through that with you. What would you say is the power or the importance of us as the people of God being able to walk together in that kind of unity through these moments?
Yeah, I would say, man, that's a true representation of love. If I love my brother, if I love my sister, I am going to want to be with you and feel what you feel and walk through those things with you and have life on life with you. So for me personally, it's hard for me to truly believe if you say you're my brother, if you say you're my sister, and vice versa on my end, and you see me going through these things and experience these things, for you to write them off or try to negate yourself from that equation, like saying, okay, I don't do that, so it's not me. Sorry for you. It's hard for me to truly believe that you love me. Because if my brother is going through something, I'm going to be there. I'm going to listen. I'm going to talk. I'm going to try to understand, you know, not that I can somehow be a solution, but one, just to be there. for them, um, because I love them. So, you know, I know we throw that word love around a lot, but this is where, rubber meets the road. It's an action thing. You can say a lot of things to me,
Yeah.
but it's more so what you do that really represents that.
Yeah. I love that, man. I agree. I think, at least I know, even in my own heart, my own struggles a little bit with um, friends of mine who are Black, and learning through those experiences and talking through those lived experiences. Even in the situation I grew up in, everything, I find myself having to push back against the knee-jerk reaction of getting defensive. I feel like you telling me what you lived through, there's something in me, and I think it's just the voice of the enemy that wants to rise up and say, makes me feel like I'm being blamed for something.
Sure.
And to me, I think that's because I'm coming from a false identity at that moment in time, and feeling like, okay, not who I am, my worth, my value might be attacked in this moment. But I think what you just said was so beautiful, because it's a picture of what gospel love looks like, and that Jesus stepping into our lives, he willingly took on our burdens, willingly took on the brokenness of our world and our lives,
Right.
without going, well, I didn't do it. Well, it's not my fault. I didn't, he just,
Right.
and he said, regardless of how you got to where you got,
Yeah.
I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to let you know that you're loved, that you're valued, that you're seen, that you're desired.
Yeah.
When the world says this, I want to let you know that I say something different.
Exactly.
And I think that's the way forward. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I love being in a community group with you and Nikki, and being able to have a relationship with you, and growing in that relationship as we move forward, is just being able to hear your experience, and then just say, bro, I know I can't take it all away, and I can't solve all the problems, but I want you to know you're not alone going through that, and whatever I can do to pray or to walk alongside, those kind of things. So it's more about just saying, like our mamas, right? I can't change it all, but I can be in it. And I think, to me, that's where the power of the gospel comes in. So
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, Rick, we appreciate you sharing, man. And I know we're going to go into our breakout rooms here in just a moment, and you're going to be helping lead one of those breakout groups. So, that you end up with, it's going to maybe get to ask you a few more questions if they want to.
Sure, no problem.